Awesome Inc. presents the Kentucky Entrepreneurial Hall of Fame, a show that highlights how people throughout the Commonwealth of Kentucky pursue their definition of awesome through entrepreneurship, technology, and innovation. Morgan Franklin of Atlas Trust Real Estate is one of the co-working tenants at Awesome Inc. and is always keeping things so interesting. On our 2018 summer retreat, he led a session on something he gets pretty fired up about, and that's sales. Morgan is a digital marketer who happens to sell real estate and is in the top 1% of all agents nationwide. He has a background in corporate finance and private equity, as well as having started several businesses with some pretty awesome failures. So Morgan, what's a bit of your background? How did you end up in the real estate business? And then how did you end up getting involved with the entrepreneurial community here in Lexington?
Wow. Long meandering story. So how I got into real estate was a pure accident. So I went to undergrad and had absolutely no idea what the hell I wanted to do. And so like everybody else, I just got a business degree. Only my problem was I didn't focus hard enough the first year and a half, 2 years of my college career. And I think my first semester of college, I had a 1.8 GPA and my parents were ready to kill me. I didn't want to go to college. I wasn't ready to be an adult yet. And so after 2 years, I didn't have the 3.0 GPA to get into the business school. And so I went to the College of Agriculture and I got a degree in agricultural economics. Nice. And so it's just like regular economics, only now I can tell you how many cows you can fit in a field. Make sense?
How many cows can you fit in a field?
Well, it depends on the size of the field. So that was undergrad, and then I got a job as an accountant at the esteemed Ashford Stud Farm in Versailles, Kentucky, which is now the home of Justified, American Pharoah, and several other past Derby winners who stand at stud there. It was an awesome time. It was a laughable pay, but I got to hang around some of the top people in the horse industry. Got to go to all kinds of horse races. Got to free tickets to Derby and Oaks and Breeders' Cup, and so there's a lot of fringe benefits, and I made a lot of friends there. But I realized, being an Irish-run organization, very closely held, that being a gringo, I was not going to make it very far in that organization. And all of my friends who had gone to business school and had those 3.5, 4.0 GPAs had all got these big fancy careers and making 3 times more money than I was. Yeah. So I decided I was going to go back in and get an MBA and reset. And so I ended up getting a 4.0 in my MBA, and I took it very seriously and cared, unlike undergrad. And then I got out and I went to work for General Electric in corporate finance. And I literally hated every second of it. It was the absolute worst. But I did learn I am an Excel ninja because of my time there. Because basically, my job was financial analysis, but really it was how good can you get at writing macros, and how sharp are you at Excel? So I got really good at Excel. And then one day I was sitting there and a headhunter called my desk at my office and said, "Hey, we see you've got an MBA, you've got all this background, you got this specific experience. Do you want to come interview for a PE firm? They're doing an acquisition for a company called Fire King Security Products right across the river." I was like, well, yeah. And I mean, it paid double. There were stock options. And so I went and worked for the PE firm called Fingston Partners for a little over 2.5 years. I worked I didn't work on the deal team. I worked on the operations side, inside of the business, putting those two businesses together. And that was the hardest I've ever worked for a company in my entire life. I mean, 80-hour weeks. I worked from Thanksgiving one year till Valentine's Day and didn't have a day off. And that included a 9-hour day on Christmas.
Wow.
Yeah, it was terrible. So after that, I had an opportunity to work with another role within that company on another project. And my wife wanted to move back to Lexington. This job was going to be either in Chicago or in Florida. And so my wife wanted to move back to Lexington and start a family. I wanted to go take this big fancy job. And so we compromised when we moved back to Lexington and we started a family. gosh, that's been 8 years ago. And now I've got a 4-year-old and a 1.5-year-old, and I can't imagine my life without them. And so I was unemployed for a solid 6 months, living off savings, having a big time. And my wife is a wedding photographer, and I had learned de facto how to use a camera because I was carrying her camera bag around all these events, and I'd kind of gotten into it, and I was traveling around just for pure entertainment. You know, I was literally making like $500 an event, you know, nothing to survive on, but I would drive around to all these CrossFit events and take photos of athletes. A friend of mine from UK knew that I was into photography, and he called me and he said, "Hey, my photographer's sick. Can you come take a photo of my real estate listing?" And I was like, well, sure, why not? So I went and photographed the real estate listing. I charged him $150 for the pictures. It took me like 2 hours. I was like, yeah, it's not bad money. I could make something out of this. Then 3 weeks later, he immediately sold it the next day, and then 3 weeks later closed on it. He got a check for like $7,500, and I got paid $150, and the photos were what, you know, sold the house. I was like, oh, wait a minute.
There's some there.
About a month later, I had my real estate license, and so it's supposed to take 96 hours to get your real estate license. I started it on Monday in an online school. I opened up 4 browsers and finished the 96-hour course in under 48, and then took my license on Wednesday, and I had my first property under contract by Friday. And hit the ground running, and that's how I got into real estate.
And that is how you got into real estate. Wow.
Because I took a random picture, somebody called me to take some pictures. And so that's like something that anytime I talk to somebody that's, you know, just getting started and they're trying to figure out what they should do in their career, I'm like, do everything, literally do everything. Because every time I've gone out and I've met somebody new, or I've done some new physical activity, like it doesn't have to be work related. You know, like how did I ever think, being a spreadsheet finance nerd, that taking pictures would take me into a completely different career that I absolutely love and enjoy, and I make a phenomenal amount more money than I ever could have made in corporate America being an entrepreneur.
Wow. That's true. So yeah, so let's continue talking about that. So focusing on your company, Atlas Trust Real Estate, how did you end up in the market that you currently are working in?
I mean, it's just pure accident. You know, the key was just working hard. So when I got into real estate, a lot of people didn't even hire professional photographers.
Okay.
Nobody was doing video. Nobody was doing Matterport, which, if you're not familiar with Matterport, is a 3D virtual tour, a lot like Google Street View. You know, you can like click around and Google. You can do the exact same thing with a Matterport camera inside a house.
Okay.
And so I differentiated myself through video. I got my license in 2014. 2015 was an okay year. And then 2016, I got really serious about video. I grossed a little bit over 600,000 views that year. And in September of that year, I made 30 videos in 30 days. And up until that point, I'd only sold like 1.5 million in real estate. And so just to give you an idea, like the average real estate agent in the United States sells about 1.6 million and makes about $35,000 a year. And so like I was just middle of the road, wasn't doing very well. And I'd ended up taking a job as a consultant for Xerox, a work from home job. And so I was pulling double duty. I was driving around. People say texting and driving is dangerous. You got to try leading a WebEx from your laptop on your truck console with your phone in while you're trying to drive to an appointment. Now that is reckless. And I did it constantly.
That's great.
And so I differentiated myself, up until that point, the 30 videos in 30 days in September, so like 1.5, 1.6. And then in the following 45 days after that, I saw 1.7 million directly from that. And just a light bulb went off. And learning how to tell a story and communicate with an audience through video, and thankful to the advent of social media, and the iPhone and broadband internet, like these are things that just didn't exist. In 2008, when I finished my MBA and the market had crashed, like I couldn't have done this because, the iPhone was 2 years old, broadband internet over cell wasn't really a thing. And so I realized that the new way to communicate with people and to, advertise and communicate your sales message is through social media and through video, because video is so much more engaging. And so I made those 30 videos, sold 1.7 million the following 45 days. I ended up selling almost $5 million that year, which is not like, even the top 25% of real estate agents, but I had successfully replaced my corporate income with real estate, and I had done it without ever buying leads or, taking the 5 to 10 years of growing your sphere. I kind of hacked the system. I doubled down on that and continued to grow. The next year I did 10 million. This past year I did just shy of 18 million. Ended up getting a custom home builder, and it was all because of, that stupid hack that I found out. And the only reason I found that out and stumbled into it was my wife asked for a camera, a DSLR, for Christmas somewhere around 2009. She got into photography. I learned how to use a camera. I got into video because I thought it was fun. Started making real estate videos because nobody else was doing it. Created a differentiator, realized it worked, and then literally just poured gasoline on the video machine. I think the next year I made over 100 videos the next year. Basically, I was pumping out 2 to 3 videos a week and putting $20 to $30 per video behind it. And that would buy me somewhere in the neighborhood of 5,000 views. And this is back when Facebook ads were dirt cheap. I mean, you could literally get 3 to 4 video views for a penny. And right now, like, if I have an unbelievable piece of content, I can get views for a penny, but realistically, you're getting like 1 view for a 1.2 to 1.5 cents. Every now and then I can break under a penny. I mean, I was just throwing up these turd softball videos that were horrendous and getting 4 views for a penny. And so, when you think you're still getting views for a penny and a half, but it's 5 or 6 times more expensive now than it was. And so there's been algorithm changes in Facebook, and they've gotten more expensive. They need to find ways to generate revenue to keep their investors happy. But there was a company in Louisville that made a product in the CrossFit space, and they ended up getting picked up on Shark Tank, and they partnered with a videographer in a gym, and they told the story of this, and it's a complete piece of crap product. Like, there's nothing unique about it. It's literally just tape that's folded up the right way, but they marketed it and they told the brand story, and that just showed me that this would work. And then I tried it in the real estate space, and in 2016, 2017, nobody else was doing it, and it completely set me apart from everybody else. And all of a sudden my phone started ringing. Now it is much more competitive. There's a lot more people that are doing video, but it still works. It still definitely works. And it's a medium that, it applies to any business, If you want to buy print advertising, you've got to spend $1,000, and you've got to, it's a couple $100 a month, and you got to do a 6-month commitment. And it's not super engaging, and you don't know whether or not you made a good ad or not until you've already spent a couple $1,000s and waited 6 months to find out. I can make a video, put it online, have it live in an hour, and have analytics back in the next 3 hours that's going to tell me, did I make a good piece of content? And if I did, I can spend more money on it. I can tweak it a little bit. I can change my offer. And so I just don't understand why anybody would spend money on, especially print. Direct mail makes sense every now and then, but TV, print, it's all wildly expensive. And AdWords and Facebook and Instagram, and even LinkedIn. I've been playing with LinkedIn lately, their ads, and it works pretty cool. I'm not an expert on their platform, but the ability to test and modify digital advertising, like I just don't understand why you would spend money on anything else. Anytime I see somebody, especially in the real estate space, whenever I see a real estate agent buy a billboard, I just laugh to myself, because the only reason they bought that is because of their own vanity. They're just their own pride. They want to feel special and have somebody say, hey, I saw your billboard. But how effective was that billboard? You spent thousands of dollars. Like, I spent $7,000 on Facebook ads last year to generate almost $18 million in real estate sales. That's one billboard for 3 months, 4 months. And I guarantee you're not selling $17 million, $18 million worth of real estate off of a billboard.
2 quick questions. They're kind of softball questions. What's the hardest part of what you do, in your opinion, and what's the most rewarding aspect?
The hardest part of what I do is getting kicked in the face by people I trusted. I think this goes to the heart that real estate agents are quickly becoming a commodity. You put a lot of time and effort. Like literally this happened to me a couple weeks ago. I've been working with these folks for a month. And, they were going to buy about a $750,000 custom home. I'd sat them down in front of 3 builders. We've been out looking at lots. They, had asked me for my expertise. And then all of a sudden they just stopped calling me back. And they finally call me and say, hey, Morgan, it's, I just wanted to let you know that we went ahead and bought a house. I was like, you did what? Come again? And just a $750,000 house means about $21,000 worth of revenue. Like that's a big piece of money, big chunk of my revenue for the year. Like, you can sell $500,000 or $600,000 houses and it still doesn't equal that one big boy. And so they literally went to an open house of a new construction home, saw that it was finished, and we had this discussion of agency. Hey, I'm representing you guys. This is how this works. If you guys want to buy anything, you're technically hiring me right now. It doesn't cost you anything, but you want to see anything, you want to do anything, you call me first. And that's what I expect if you want to work with me. And they said, yep, no problem. And so I have the recourse. I could go sue my client for the 3% that on the purchase of that home, but that's not going to do me any good. And so every real estate agent has that happen. It happens more likely than we all like to admit, or, a close personal family friend, chooses somebody else over you. That is by far the worst. And the schedule. I can't tell you how many times I've told my wife that I was going to be home at 5:30, to see the kiddos, for dinner, and a new property comes on the market. And I got to go because one of my buyer's agents no one's available because they've already gone out with clients or it's too short a notice. And I have to miss quality time with my family. That's by far the worst. The best is when I deliver exceptional value. So in undergrad, I worked in construction, both residential and commercial. My father is a title attorney, so I worked for him. During the school year, learning all about real estate law because he's a real estate attorney. I spent the summers working construction. I represented a custom home builder for 2.5, 3 years. And so I could build a house from scratch and I understand these things. And so when I take especially a first time home buyer and I help guide them through the process and I, identify shortfalls of the property and help them successfully negotiate around it and make sure that they get a great deal. And we get to that closing table and I get to see how just unbelievably excited they are. Especially, I had a client last year, first person in family history to actually own a home. And she cried at the table and she was just so proud. And to be a part of that was awesome. And to help people, find their dream and, because a home is where your life happens. It's one of the, it's where you spend more time than anywhere else other than work, maybe. Hopefully you spend more time at home than work. And so helping somebody get a home that they really, really love and making sure they get a good deal on it is by far the best part.
This is awesome stuff.
So how I got started in the entrepreneurial community here was I moved back to Lexington. I think it was fall of 2012 or 13. All my friends that did anything with their lives, because Lexington at the time was a wasteland for real jobs. Anybody that had a college degree and wanted to pursue a corporate career moved away to take a job with a corporation just because we don't have that, those finance roles, because we just don't have very large corporations here. You either work at a hospital, you work at UK, you're a lawyer or a doctor, if you want to have a high income. And so all my friends had moved away and everybody that had stayed here, most of them had a drug or alcohol problem and just not people I wanted to hang out with, especially as I'm starting to, start a family and all that stuff. And so I looked around, I was like, I need to network. I need to find some people. And I got on the Google machine and Awesome Inc. had started a few years earlier. And I was like, ooh, entrepreneurship, startups. And by this time I'd already had 5 or 6 failed startups. I'll tell you about Thoroughbred Source sometime. And I got in touch with Brian Rainey, who is the head honcho at Awesome Inc. I tried to get him to go to lunch with me, and he protects his calendar like you wouldn't believe. And like getting him to go to lunch with you was a big thing because he just doesn't do it. And so finally he broke down after my third or fourth reaching out to him, said, come in. And I got involved coaching 5 Across and kind of got me started in the Awesome Inc. community. And that's been 6 or 7 years ago. And I've been involved with Awesome Inc. in some form of capacity, whether it's through 5 Across, the Cherub Fund. Now I'm teaching the Intro to Entrepreneurship class here at Awesome Inc. And I absolutely love hanging out here and spending time. And Atlas Trust Real Estate operates out of Awesome Inc. Mainly because of the free double stuff Oreos, which is included in rent. If you're thinking about renting office space, there are some phenomenal opportunities here at Awesome Inc. And it comes with not only double stuff Oreos, but there's also scooter rentals and a bunch of awesome people to hang out with. And so that's how I got into the entrepreneurial community in Lexington.
Morgan, you are amazing. Yeah, I think it's
sales pitch.
Hey, you did a great job, better than I'll ever do. Yeah, it's cool to hear about your background and how one accident led to a career that you're just absolutely dominating in. And it's been really cool to see how you have played a key part in influencing not only like the tenants here, but even the community. And that's kind of where I want to take this is you hit it earlier about sales and everything. For those of you guys that don't know, Awesome Inc., we are blessed to have retreats twice a year. And so Morgan,
they're the best.
They are the best. In 2018, you led a session at our summer retreat, and it was a sales pitch titled, "If you build it, they probably won't come."
100%.
Yeah. And again, you're focused on solving your sales problem. So contrary to what the Field of Dreams taught us, can you give a short background on what your sales problem was and like what you notice all people wrestle with?
Yeah, 100%. So if you build it, they won't come refers to most entrepreneurs get caught up designing their product, whether it's a physical product or it's a piece of software, or if it's a service, they worry about like the perfect CRM, or they worry about the perfect process flow or whatever it is, and they don't think about how in the hell am I going to get new sales in the funnel. This is especially, at Awesome Inc., and especially, I've been involved in 5 Across now. Let's see, 5 to 10 teams a year times 7, at least 50 companies that I have coached over the last 5 or 6 years. And, there's always this one guy that has this great app idea and it's going to change the world, and he has no idea how in the world it's going to say. He just thinks, I'm just going to put it on the App Store, and then all of a sudden people are going to start using it. It's going to be the next day on Facebook, and it just doesn't work that way. When somebody asks me what I do for a living, I tell them I'm a digital marketer that happens to sell real estate, because I am 100% focused on, how do you craft a sales message? How do you get it out digitally? And how do you turn that person into a buyer? And how do you tell the story that is going to convince them to buy? And I think that, that skill set can be applied to anything. It just happens to be real estate has something with very handsome margins for the moment, which I think is going to end in the near future. We can talk about that some other time. So if you build it, they won't come is 100% true, regardless of what business you're in. So, at the heart of any business, before you start, with I'm going to do X, Y, Z, go out and test your assumptions. If you've ever read The 4-Hour Workweek, Timothy Ferriss, I think it was like 2006, 2007. Great book. And not even like I could never work 4 hours a week, because literally I would go insane and I would be depressed and I would hate myself, because work is what I love to do. But one of the principles in that is test it before you make it. Go sell things before you make them. And so building your sales funnel, or how you're going to buy customers, because marketing is nothing more than buying customers, right? How can I effectively arbitrage and buy a customer, with a sales funnel that's going to make sense for my business? I can still make a profit. And most people try and make this solution or this piece of software or this product, and they spend thousands and thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars designing some piece of crap to find out that nobody wants it after the fact, or they don't have the chops to sell it, or they don't have, somebody that's going to buy their IP or whatever it is. Like, even if your goal is to just design some piece of technology and sell it to some larger corporation and sell the IP, you still need to go have that conversation and say, hey, if I do X, Y, Z, will you buy it? And what price would you buy it? I've done some work through Commerce Lexington, and there's a grant program through the state where a lot of technology companies will come through, and I'll meet with these guys and kind of give them a little business consulting, and they're like, well, I've got this great idea, and the military's going to buy it from me for $50 million. It's like, who are you going to sell it to at the military? What's that person's name? Do you have a contact? Do you know Steve in purchasing? Yeah. No, you don't. You don't know Steve in purchasing. And so, take time and figure out how you're going to sell things beforehand. And I learned this wildly painful, or in a painful way. I had this wonderful startup in 2008, 2009, right when I was getting my MBA, or I was finishing my MBA in 2008. It was called Thoroughbred Source, the online marketplace for horses. The online marketplace. And I should have seen the writing on the wall because like 5 other people had tried this, had failed miserably. And so the one-liner for this business was, it was the Craigslist of thoroughbred horses. So typically in a thoroughbred horse transaction, you've got a buying agent, you've got a selling agent, and each one collects 5%. So 10% off the top comes off the sale of the property, or sale of the horse, and the seller has to pay both agents. That's a ton of money, especially when you're talking about $100, $200, $300 million horses. And so, my simple brain just thought, well, this is finance. I've got a spreadsheet. This is $100,000. I'm saving $10,000. I'm charging them $100. They make $9,900. Well, they've just won. God, I was so wrong. And so I had 3 people who are in the horse industry that, told me that it was a good idea. And they told me, we should definitely do it. And so I raised $30,000. I went and built this custom website. I think we spent like $24,000 on the website, which, 10 years ago was a ton of money. And I only left $5,000 or $6,000 for operating expenses and marketing. We get the website live, and I end up going to the Keeneland September horse sale and trying to hand out flyers, and I was promptly kicked out in a matter of 20 minutes because Keeneland saw what I was doing and like, you need to leave. It also didn't help that I hired 2 promotional models, and I definitely should have gone. I just put up an ad on Craigslist. Bad decision. This one girl's, she literally had a face tattoo, and I think the other one was a stripper, and it was a train wreck. It was an absolute train. So anyway, we got kicked out of Keeneland. The marketing failed. I think I had like $1,600 in gross revenue for that business ever. But the thing that did work was the email newsletter. So anytime I would get a new horse, I went and scraped an email list from a bunch of different industry publications. I paid an outsourcer to, I shipped about a 600-page directory to the Philippines to my outsourcer, and then it took her like 2 weeks of just sitting there doing data entry, just page after page after page. And so I built this list of about 10,000 people in the horse industry, and I just started cold emailing them. And so the thing I didn't understand at the time was, no one in the horse industry used a computer. Their office staff did, but the people who were making these buying and selling decisions, were usually older. They were in rural areas with crap internet. And if I'd done any kind of research or sales testing, I would have realized that. But they had all just gotten iPhones in the last year or two, and they all had email on their phone. So the email list of 10,000 people that cost me less than $400 to scrape was by far the most productive piece of sales that I had. And if I had done any testing at all, I would have realized that the website was a terrible idea. And second was, people don't buy racehorses to save money. And so the people that are selling them don't care because, and I won't even get into the backhanded things that happen in horse sales. It's the most, anyway. When somebody comes to buy a horse, they want an agent because they want to be taken around the sales and made to feel special, and they want to be taken out for that steak dinner, and they want to have somebody, when they go into the clubhouse at Keeneland or Churchill Downs or wherever it is, whatever racetrack, They want to be recognized as being a player in the market, and the salespeople that facilitate all these transactions, introduce them to trainers, introduce them to vets and all the other, vendors in the industry. And so I didn't understand that. I was just a spreadsheet guy, and I was like $10,000 on $100,000 sale. Who doesn't want to save that money? And I didn't understand that nobody really gives a damn about the $10,000. And so if I had done any research whatsoever, other than talking to 3 people who I talked into giving me money, I would have known really quickly that this was a terrible idea. And that was the very painful and expensive. Granted, $30,000 is not an enormous amount of money, but when I was 26 or 20, I was 26. Like, that was more money than I'd ever seen in my bank account, and probably, and so it was embarrassing. It hurt. Like, it was by far the biggest failure of my entire professional career. Like, I'd never really failed at anything that badly. But it was a lesson that I learned very quickly and took a lot from. And so when I say, if you build it, they won't come, I couldn't be any more serious than that. And so, do a little testing, get on the phone, try and sell something, like, especially if you're making a physical product, go the, Kickstarter route. Try and get people to invest at a discount rate before you actually make it, to make sure you have some interest.
Man, that's good stuff, Morgan.
Sell it before you make it.
Sell it before you make it. Man, that's actually really interesting that you learned how important the wine and dine experience is, especially with that, just like the horse industry. And you had a great idea, but you didn't do any little customer discovery, which is crucial.
It hurt.
It's a lesson learned.
It hurt my pride more than anything.
And going back to the billboards, huh?
And the 3 investors, even though they were in the industry and they were just as likely to be blamed as I was, I had to go back and tell them that the idea failed, and I'd never had to do that before, and that really hurt. Yeah. And then I had to tell them that the operating account was completely empty, and I'm going to need an extra $750 from everybody to pay our accountant to close out the books for the year and dissolve the business.
And that came crashing down quickly.
That they were really happy about that.
It makes sense. So looking back on your business related failures and this thoroughbred one as well, how has that influenced the way you sell today?
So every time I've failed forward. It's okay to fail. And like, especially in sales, nobody has 100% conversion rate. I'm starting a new business right now because, I don't think that retail real estate, I don't think it's going to be around in 5 years. There's too many new tech players coming. There's too much money in it. The residential real estate agent is going to be a thing of the past, or at least at a greatly reduced commission. And so I'm focusing on marketing new construction. And right now I've got a 12% conversion rate, which, by the way, is phenomenal. But that means 4 out of every 5 times I pick up the phone, somebody's going to hang up on me, tell me to blow off, or even worse. And so, the trick is, Muhammad Ali said it best. You can't beat somebody who doesn't give up. Kentucky, yeah, I like that.
That was good.
That's good. I'm proud of that. I'm proud of that one. So you can't beat somebody that doesn't give up. And so you're going to fail. And the bigger you try, the bigger you're going to fail. But the bigger you try, also the bigger your successes can be. And so, the trick is figure out what it takes to get you back right. Like when you get depressed, so I have something called SAD, seasonal affective disorder. And so I get super blue in the winter. And when you take that on top of getting kicked in the crotch a couple times from business failures in the winter, I get super depressed. And so I found that if I go to the gym, I work out really, really hard, and then I fast for a day, all of a sudden, everything's okay. I'm back in the positive. My hormones are doing what they need to do. And I'm ready to go back out there. Some people like to meditate. Some people like to, have positive self-talk and go talk to people. My trick is I go to the gym and just try and murder myself, and then get all the hormones going. And so whatever it is, you just got to figure out how to pick yourself back up and get motivated again.
You heard it here first. Morgan goes to murder at the gym. Yeah, that's great. No, that makes a lot of sense. And yeah, knowing you for the last year, it's very evident that's how you amp yourself up and that you are extremely motivated, and it's really encouraging to see. So in your opinion, with everything you've discussed a ton, but how crucial is it in storytelling when it comes to sales? Because you hit on it a while ago with Facebook ads, but even today, how crucial is it for you as you're trying to make a sale with someone and their property?
Storytelling is the most important thing you can do when it comes to selling, bar none. And I've read 100 different selling books, but there's a guy by the name of Russell Brunson who runs a company called ClickFunnels, and he's written a couple books around this, and he's got some really detailed processes. And he kind of really breaks it down and goes a little bit deeper than most do. But if I can make you cry or I can make you laugh, you're going to buy. And I don't mean just generically laugh about something unrelated to the topic. What I have to do is I have to tell a story about someone that you identify with, or you can, be empathetic with or empathize with. Have a similar conflict to yourself, and then whatever I'm selling has that resolution or resolves that problem, then you've just visually seen yourself solving your problem or want with the story I just told, and you can't get out your credit card fast enough. So in the book Expert Secrets, Russell breaks it down as you introduce a unique character, somebody that has some unique trait that's memorable, conflict, what's the problem, and then what's the resolution. And so I add something to that, especially in digital marketing world. I think it's a 4-part process. You have to have the hook, then the unique character, then the conflict, then the resolution. And the key to being successful in digital marketing is people are scrolling north to south as quickly as they can possibly go, right? You've got less than a second to catch their attention. And so your hook, what is going to catch their attention? That is the first 2 seconds of the video. That's the first line of the text, and then some white space, and then the rest of the story. Negative space in social media advertising is the most useful thing on the face of the earth. With a video, you got to have something super catchy in the first 2 seconds. And one of the things I found wildly beneficial, your video should go left to right every single time. And I've done A/B tests with this with the exact same video. The only difference is the opening shot being a tilt versus a pan or a slide. So a tilt is up, down, a pan is left to right, and then a slide is literally like it slides on a dolly, left to right. The number 1 is the slide, number 2 is the pan, and the third is the tilt. So just breaking up the movement that they're used to seeing catches their attention, and you have to, show the chops immediately. Get to the story. And so having that hook is terribly important, and that's something that, Russell hadn't really talked about and a bunch of other people hadn't talked about. So once you hook them, then you have to tell that story that makes a whole lot of sense. There is a Zillow ad, and I think it's the best piece of advertising I have seen in the real estate space, and I'm so upset that I didn't come up with it. It's a couple, and they're laying in bed, and they open up the Zillow app, and the wife looks over at the husband and goes, "Oh, I can't believe we're doing this." And he responds, "Yeah, all of this." And so they're going around, they're looking at houses, and then all of a sudden they get on an airplane. And then they walk into kind of like this, mediocre office at best. And then, they're sitting there, and then all of a sudden the reveal is a child from another country comes out, and you discover that they've adopted him, right? Like, you're getting emotional?
Yeah.
Are you getting teary? And then the conclusion is they're all sitting at the breakfast table about a month later. It starts with a sold sign in the front yard, and then they're sitting at the breakfast table, and the little boy comes running over, and I think the tagline was like, Zillow, because home is where life happens. Right?
So that's so good. Ooh,
and so
yeah.
They didn't have a great hook. right? Like you had to get into it.
Yeah.
But the unique character was the parents. The conflict was, hey, we've just done this huge thing and adopted a child, and now we've got to have a house. And then the resolution was Zillow solved our problem. And so that storytelling is huge. And so telling your brand story over and over and over again and understanding what that is. And Zillow's brand story is, we make finding a home easy because home is where life happens. And telling that story over and over and over again, you beat it into people's heads. Like my tagline for the last 3 years is, I'm Morgan Franklin, your local Lexington realtor. And I've communicated that message over 600 times in video and over 1,000 times in print. And it's been viewed somewhere in the neighborhood of 2.5 million times. Population of Lexington is like 340, 350,000. So there's a good chance that, all of Lexington has seen my message at least 2 or 3 times. Now that's false because, it's going to be, older people aren't online. I'm only looking for home buyers. And then I'd spend a lot of time on my retarget audiences. And like, I could go super deep on like digital marketing, but it doesn't matter. And so Gary Vaynerchuk, if you're not familiar with Gary V, is a guy who wrote a book in 2009 called Crush It, which goes through all the different ways to market online, all the different platforms and like how to have that conversation. Then he wrote 3 other books on, digital sales and how to build relationships online. So Gary V's thesis was that, selling online is no different than selling in person. It's just that doing it online allows us the leverage to reach tons of people at the same time and to have more conversations, because if we want to have coffee with everybody we know, I mean, you could realistically have 6 coffees, 8 coffees a day. You'd probably be jittery and falling out of your chair. And so that's only 40 conversations a week. I can have 40 conversations in 5 minutes when I leverage social media platforms. And then, it's a matter of reaching out to people and understanding and having that conversation just like you would if you ran into somebody at the store. It's just now I can do it much more quickly, and I can do it through text messages, through Facebook Messenger, which, by the way, Facebook Messenger is fire. Just quick side note, Facebook Messenger bots, ManyChat has a 92% open rate, and just consider it the same thing as email, whereas like an awesome email list has 24% open rates. Utilizing these tools allows you to tell that story more effectively to more people. And then, so there's another book called the seven Levels of Communication. And so, the trick is not to rely solely online. And this is something that, with the whole, if you build it, they won't come thesis. A lot of people think I just need to do these ads and never actually talk to another human being, and they couldn't be more wrong. So the 7 levels of communication basically states that at the base of the pyramid with advertising like TV commercials or billboards, we can reach a ton of people. Billboards are great at building awareness. And so in a sales funnel, all sales funnels are the same. We've got this big group at the top where we have to create awareness, then we have to create intent, they have to have the decision, and then they actually have to take action, right? And so those big ideas like billboards and TV advertising, they create awareness, right? But as we get into intent, decision, and action, we have to move up that level of communication. Like we have to go from billboard to email to phone call to in person. And the higher you can move up that pyramid, the more effective you're going to be. But you have to be more particular because you can obviously only have so many coffees and in-person meetings a week. And so to have your sales be more effective, think about who are the most valuable people in my sales funnel. Who do I think I can convert, more likely than not? And I need to go see that person in person. And if that's not possible, I need to talk to them on the phone. I need to send them a care package. I need to be in their face, having, emotional connections where I can look in their eyes, I can see their body language, and we can talk. And then if I've told the right story and have an offer that makes sense, they're going to buy. For any aspiring entrepreneur or person who, is thinking about, starting a business, go talk to potential customers, get direct feedback. Don't send some BS Google form survey and just do a Google ad. Now that's a great way to get some massive feedback, but take 10 of those people and go buy them coffee, go buy them lunch, go see them in person and understand, because we're emotional And humans buy things off benefits and emotions, has nothing to do with features. So my favorite benefit first feature advertisement was for the iPad or the iPod. But the advertisement said 1,000 songs in your pocket. So they didn't tell you how many gigabytes. They didn't tell you what waveform or what, file format it was going to be in. They didn't tell you, and those are all features. What they told you was the benefit. And so, as you look at how do I sell my product and how do I sell my story, it needs to talk about the benefits. What is the actual outcome going to be? If you keep asking why somebody wants something or why somebody is going to buy something, it comes down to ego. Literally everything in the world comes down to ego, even if you are trying to be altruistic. If somebody says, I'm going to donate $1,000 and I'm going to do it anonymously, or I'm going to whatever the sum is. That person is doing it because they want to see themselves as a good person, even if nobody else knows about it. They're donating that money because they want to see themselves as a good person. And so that is the truest form of it. But, why do people buy Corvettes instead of Cavaliers? Right? They both get you from A to B, but one's really fast and cool and one's, very economical and boring. People buy things because of the emotions and how they think it reflects on themselves. And if you can dig in and really understand the emotions and the psyche of the person you're trying to sell to, then you craft a hook, unique character, conflict, and resolution that solves their problem and appeals to that emotion. Sales gets super easy, super easy.
All right, well, that's it. We want to say thank you again so much for checking out the Kentucky Entrepreneurial Hall of Fame podcast. Special thanks to Lee Roseveare for the music that you hear in the show, and to Lexington's Awesome Inc. for hosting us from their space. Again, I'm Garrett Farbach. Make sure to check back and tune in next time. We'll see you then.